How you doing, YouTube? This is Stash with another Stash vlog. This one also controversial. I'm bringing up a topic that will make people angry. A casual conversation about a touchy subject, which would be a lot of the kind of YouTube videos that I have are really out there. I've got a lot that I guess you might say the end of the world people. I guess there was some people commenting on mine saying there's actual people who are obsessed with end of the world videos, Planet X, Planet 9. I think there might be some scientific evidence for one, but it gets into touchy things like biblical stuff, or biblical prophecy that the planet is coming. I don't know if they refer to as wormwood, or if you're into the Bible, let me know. And I think it's more like Book of Revelation paranoia. Like I have one that, about the days of darkness. I did write on there that it was a hoax, and it was, I guess, a hoax. I didn't think anybody would look at it, but about 80,000 people checked it out in some fashion, and a lot of people, were, calling it out for what it is. But then there's a lot of guys shouting verses from, I think, Book of Revelation at me and so forth. And I think that's what largely in this United States and maybe parts of Europe, or people, untold amount of people, are kind of obsessed with the Book of Revelation, which in some sense makes sense because of, in particular right now, a lot of world events are tense and so forth. To get to my main point, though, I'm not necessarily saying there's not something to it, and I don't want to be insulting anybody who's Christian or whatever, but I probably am by saying I'm not so sure that everything is that positive about the Book of Revelation. In fact, as you can see, I've also got a lot of weird YouTubes about occult stuff and things to do with magic and things like that. And I was noticing, but over the years reading that stuff, there's a real emphasis on Book of Revelation type of things with these people that are notoriously kind of infamous, popular figures in the occult or in magic, or it's Western magical tradition or esoteric stuff, kind of forbidden stuff, maybe kind of nasty, definitely kind of nasty in a lot of cases. That actually, it seems like the people that are either totally full of it, con men and women, or they're people who've been studying magic and mysticism and alchemy and been involved in sophisticated secret societies like the OTO and high-level Freemasonry, Rosicrucians, and even in the Enlightenment period, even the infamous pre-communist Illuminism or Illuminati. Adam Weishaupt was political, but I think that, at least according to Kenneth Grant, the occultist, he was an occultist that was a sort of a student of Crowley, the infamous Aleister Crowley, who said that Weishaupt, like Crowley, kind of brought together the magic groups under one hat, or at least that's what he claimed, and Crowley did it years later. And he's popular in popular fiction and non-fiction, and he's given credit by the Beatles. A lot of people who've read up on weird stuff will know that he's on their album cover. And a part of me thinks he's just, you know, a guy who indulged in debauchery and fun all his life, and another part says he's a very serious, nasty guy, and he's definitely an influence on rock and roll music. Some people say it's just harmless, some people say it's really dark. Obviously, the Christian people are offended by it, or maybe they're capitalizing on talking about it, fear mongering. But without a doubt, Crowley talks a lot about it, about a Scarlet Woman or a Horror Babylon. He refers to himself as the Beast, which is pretty nasty, but he had a negative reaction to his upbringing. I guess his dad was maybe too strict, or he rebelled against. He was one of these very puritanical people, I think, who actually went over to the States, and so he refers to himself as the Beast, and that he's attempting to make a moon child, which is kind of like a reference to like Antichrist stuff. So I'm both questioning this book of Revelation, and I'm saying, well, what's up there to it at the same time. I'm not one of these people who's going to be like, well, the Christian people are idiots and this and that, and I'm not necessarily saying people who are involved in even some stuff that's questionable, or magic or art, are always evil, although it's maybe not something that people should dabble in. Certainly it's warned against in biblically speaking, but you see it in traces of the stories of Aleister Crowley, the Beast, the rock and roll icon, if you will, and people associated with him, like one of his students, Jack Parsons, who I think there's going to be a movie coming out about Parsons pretty soon, was also involved in science, and he was an expert in rocketry, and by performing what you'd call a working, which is which is like working on magic and science, he wound up blowing himself up. And allegedly Crowley warned Parsons not to fool around with certain types of magic and science, as Arthur C. Clarke would say. Any high-level science is mistaken for magic, or something. In fact, there's a quote, I'll put it in the liner notes, there's a quote that Clarke says, so the highest level magic, science is indistinguishable from magic, so they're almost like words, different words. If you didn't know what a laser was, or how a radio worked, or communications, or rocketry worked, well, you would think it's magic. Parsons, the occultist, associate of Crowley, also talked about how he was summoning a Scarlet woman, and he claimed, he did hook up with a woman named Marjorie Cameron, who was also an occultist, and I believe she had like the red hair, and she appeared to him, So whether or not it was just a coincidence or he summoned this woman, I'm willing to say maybe there's a possibility of it. What I'm driving at is what about this book of Revelation? Was it even invented by wise men to manipulate people? Is it really, regarding theology and religion, a compassionate kind of thing? Or, because it seems to me to be an obsession, in particular the United States, with evangelical people and other people, and even people who are against it are saying, well, I think it's the end of the world. And it is the constant focus on this, what you bring about, what you think about, you bring about. Is it something of that nature? Because I think, again, there's a lot of these people that dabble with some really questionable stuff, magic and sorcery and so forth. Which on one hand I think of it as kind of art too, So, and it's not the worst thing. Obviously, I've got some weird YouTubes on here myself, about the CERN and all this stuff, which I was getting into YouTube at the time that there was a paranoia over that CERN, and are they dealing with magic and high science, and or is it just science? And what about this hatred of scientists to people of Christianity and different faiths, is, much like other groups that identity politics and the Trump deplorables versus the the far left or the left or the liberals or so forth. It seems like it's almost beyond repair. It's worse than ever now. In other words, people can't have civil conversations about things. But again and again, and I think Dr. John Dee, who was an occultist from the Elizabethan age, referred to some Book of Revelation type of things. But I'm going to look further into this, and I would like to do a follow-up to this, and I hope this is interesting. But I find this fascinating. Why are all these guys, in other words, that people regard as magic doers, sorcerers, Satanists, and all kind of occultists? Why are they obsessed with imagery from that? Like Parsons called the Scarlet Woman. I think that they went to Caltech, and they were at a certain time they went where the telescope was, and they were to be copulating or whatever under the rays of Saturn, for instance. Why is he fooling that? And they were trying to create, as Crowley talked about, a moon child, or these different rites that would do this. I mean, it seems something right out of the Damien. I forget the name of the one. The kid. He's the Antichrist or something. So, in a sense, is it a little dangerous for people to be maybe too focused on that? I don't know. And then the hatred between the Roman Church, which is preached against as a lot. It's just the Protestant folks basically call the Roman Catholic Church, the whore of Babylon, or it's idolatry or Mary worship. There's a huge divide going back from England, and it's carried over to the United States, and still to this day I think a lot of Protestants and Catholics don't like each other. I don't want to get too into the politics of it, but it was wars in England for hundreds of years, and now it seems to me like Christianity in America is the focus, and the energy is on this Book of Revelation. Prophecy, Bible prophecy, and that's what people like, and it's almost kind of vengeful. You see comments of people on YouTube, like if there's something that people don't like, let's say, well, God's going to come and the Most High is going to wipe them out or something, and this has resulted in kind of a backlash where the left or young people are, getting angry or, attacking, making fun of mercilessly the obsession with this Book of Revelation or certain aspects of Christianity, which just doesn't seem healthy to me. But I mean, they're saying things like, when the rapture comes, I had read this one reference, the rapture comes, I'm driving with my friend, the guy says, I'm called, I'm sucked up to heaven in the rapture, and my friend's out of luck because he's in the passenger seat, and I'm saved, and my friend is not. He's a jerk, so he's stuck in the car. The car will hit a tree. I'm raptured or something. Or the Left Alone series, or the Left Behind, the Tribulation Force, And there's a lot of people who go at this and they just, if you're not into it, or maybe you have a different view, I mean, they get hostile, and the reverse is true. And again, what I'm saying is the energy from this over the time, over the decades and years, maybe even centuries, building up. And are we looking at it now? Maybe they're right. Maybe it's it. This is it. The Book of Revelation. It's funny. You meet a lot of people who are completely unreligious, and they're saying, well, it's the end of the world. And they say, yeah, brother, that's the end of time. Well, maybe we should kind of cool it with this. As far as I know, at least my interpretation of Jesus is a man of ultimately of peace, above all, and he's trying to help. He's opened the doors. My kingdom is for everyone. Everyone can come to heaven. I'm not good at quoting biblical stuff, but it's something to that effect. Open to the world, and he, from what I gather, his words and teachings aren't nearly, if at all, as obsessed by this Book of Revelation type of stuff, which has really become kind of like a superhero kind of comic book thing. And it's always, and there seems to be a lot of people who are versed in this, again, this magic and hidden, aspects of really wild stuff that refer to it, And I don't know if you look on, there's a lot made of this skull and bones thing, I don't know if it's quite the powerhouse or the be all and end all of that controlling force of everything, because I think there's a lot of real elite networking. Niall Ferguson has a great book out now. The name escapes me, but it's about networking, and he kind of brings it a little bit down to earth. Maybe he's making it seem too benign and not real, because there's definitely something to connections, and in fact that's what life's all about. The higher your value, the harder you work, and the more connections you make, you're going to be successful in the Western world in particular. Skull and Bones is definitely, at Yale University, something that people want to be involved with, for the power of the connections of it. But I'm not sure if that many people know. There's different nicknames for bonesmen who have what it takes to get into this organization, and they tend to, some of them, I believe, can choose their own code word name. And I don't know if people know this, but the nicknames that always carry, I think there always has to be a long bones and a tall bones, or a short bones, and that type of thing. Bones. But I think the code names Gog and Magog always have to be in the order of the Skull and Bones. Again, people who are into Alex Jones and all that stuff, David Icke, so forth, talk a lot about bones, Skull and Bones. Will know, if they've read into it, that a Gog and Magog has to be among it. And so that's weird. What's that kind of organizations which arguably, it's very hard to say if there's not a lot of negative things associated with bones, Skull and Bones. It doesn't. I think they would like to say it's a fraternity, and if they're proud to have been in it. And I think that even there's some strange thing where if you confront them and talk about it, they're not allowed to speak about it, so they get kind of angry. Bush son and his dad were in it. John Kerry. It was funny when they were running against each other. It was a bonesman versus a bonesman. Very unique, but expected. And perhaps someone who has sworn an oath to such an order should not be permitted to run for president. That's a topic for maybe another vlog, if anybody likes this stuff I'm talking about. Maybe people are going to get really pissed that I'm talking about Book of Revelation and I'm talking about occult. But I've just noticed this time and time again. And if you're into that, if you're in a secret society and you don't, or you're into Western occultism and magic and all that, and you don't want to flip out on me, make a comment below as to what you think. Have you seen have you seen it? And if you're a Christian person, and give me your reasons why you believe Book of Revelation is it, and you go by that. And if you give me a Bible verse or you get pissed off or whatever, tell me decode some of what you're saying for me, please. Man, I would love to hear from you. Because I think this has not been a connection that I've seen made. Again, the highest level guys and all this stuff. And these are just the figures that are popular. I don't know how many people deal in such weird stuff and are unknown. Maybe there's even adepts, people who are even more skilled and deeper into the stuff than Crowley and Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, who messed with people's brains and founded Scientology, was also an occultist, and he did a Babylon working with Crowley. And there's also on the next vlog, when I can get to it, I want to talk about I'll get anybody who was willing to care or comment a view of the atomic bomb testing, which I've made some really far out YouTubes to, and other things, and its connection to other events. But again, so why do they choose Agog and Magog for that secret society? What is up for that? And what are these men who are of very questionable lives, who've led questionable lives and dealt clearly in things like occult and politics, espionage, and so forth, men of power who kind of work behind the scenes, and then they have the public just is one way or another. They're either, these men are great men, you're crazy to talk about this kind of stuff, or it's just right and left and Democrat and Republican and so forth. But there's a lot of weird stuff to these guys, even of what we are permitted to know. The Book of Revelation, talks, or obsession with the end of the world, seems interesting to me. That's why I was doing these YouTubes over the last few years, and I'm fooling around with it. I'm doing a lot of these. I'm like, wow, what's up with this, and what is this with it? And I noticed that some of the news cycles actually feed into it. I noticed Drudge Report was linking up to a lot of, well, is there a Planet 9 or X coming? And then there would be just a frenzy over this, and different signs, whenever an odd formation of a cloud would come, well, this is an image, and people are just going crazy. Some of it, the other one was people cared to look at was anything to do with the UFOs or whatever. That's understandable, or that's been a long time thing. I don't even know if that's regarded as something, as a religious sighting thing. But I don't know if this is something inherent in mankind that they are interested, or we are as a people are interested in, are scared in our conscious lives and subconscious lives of the end, and so this is a way to deal with it, or something like that. But there's something afoot here. Again, we have Dee from the Elizabethan era, the Queen Elizabeth's court astrologer, dealing with it. We have Crowley, Parsons, Hubbard, Marjorie Cameron talk about talking about a Babylon, a horror Babylon woman, and a Scarlet woman, and all this. The other thing I want to talk about at another point is this. In addition to this type of kind of frenzy or paranoia or obsession, and again, hey, maybe it's matching, but the other thing is there's aspects of flat Earth, and every event now is also a staged event. Every event now since September 11th attack, and people accusing often in every case, all victims and all perpetrators, all the assassins or people in these increasingly horrible mass shootings are staged. And it's been admitted by high up official of the Obama administration that this would be occurring. A gentleman named Cass Sustain. They, in order to deal with what they felt was negative aspects of so-called conspiracy theories, instead of taxing them or doing something else, taxing people or dragging them into court cases, they would infiltrate whatever the amateur or non-amateur, what have you, conspiracy movement, or people who are reacting to what they feel as poor reporting in the major news outlets or a conflict with it. Cognitive infiltration is very interesting. So I want to vlog about that another time. But so is that an aspect? Is there certain programs that deliberately pushes this idea that the Earth is flat, that every horrible event that we deal with is a manufactured crisis, up and down, like Capricorn 1, and it's like back and forth, and that people get on the YouTube and they analyze these events, and I'm not saying that anybody's wrong or whatever. I'm just my thing that's interesting me is the cognitive infiltration and the incredible popularity of this stuff, and what's it all mean. Is it becoming a form of entertainment or whatnot? And I wonder how it fits in with the dramatic part of the book of Revelation. Again, either real or not real. Maybe it's happening right now. Gog and Magog at Skull and Bones. Gog and Magog in, I believe, again, my biblical, I'll have to, I forget the passages, the identifiers, but that's included, the war of Gog and Magog on the Holy Land and so forth. And different people who are versed in the Bible, they're saying, well, they try to interpret it in light of current events, and that gets dicey, I think. But, we have now Russia and China are, some would say, challenging the hegemony of the West, and or particularly the United States. And do they represent that? Do some people say that? I don't know, but at times the things seem tense. So we gotta hope and pray that Mr. Trump can deal with some of these things, that he gets this North Korea thing back on track. He's, there was recently today or yesterday that the now North Korea is upset that the United States has still continued to conduct military exercises, so now they're upset, and I don't know, where does it come from. Does it come from Bolton, who's a war hawk, who's in there with Trump? The Trump cabinet is like nothing that's ever been seen before, and we hope that the president, more of a business-minded kind of guy, can maybe work out. Well, we were hoping that he could deal with peace and avoid maybe some of the horrors that they talk about. So I'm sorry if some of these videos that I had are insulting to people, whatever, but or maybe I fed into it. Certainly, I was all trying to be provocative to them in the interest of free speech. But there's hundreds of them, and I'm not really saying anything, so they were left to be interpreted in your way or anybody's way, looking at them, and a lot of them just the quality isn't that good. So people are like, hey, you need to do something with your life. But I think it's been interesting because it's a clue as to what drives people. The days of darkness, and a lot of people are like, well, this is baloney, but a lot of people like believing it, or some people are, or the planets, or every asteroid that comes within is, of course, a worry, or is it a sign? Every cloud is a sign. Or is it just the beauty that God has given us, and we should just maybe focus on the peaceful message of Jesus Christ, and not seeing every horrible event as a plague or something that means the end all of end all, because I think Jesus said something about the thief in the night and so forth. Or is your version, or is that just, I've seen many pastors or whatever saying, no, it's God is mean, is tough, and he's mean, and he's going to punish people who are maybe too into science and denying them or whatever. Or it's a big cultural divide, but again, is it feeding into something that's kind of snowballing in? Is it really coming true, or is it, or give me a shout if you think this is really it, and so forth. I'm taking kind of a neutral thing, but I haven't heard anybody bring up the idea that these men of great secrets, and men who pursued magic and all sorts of strange things. Why are they tapped into that? If they seem to mock things such as Christianity and stuff, then why are they going to it? So for summoning the Scarlet Woman, and guy calls himself the Beast, and he's become the king of rock and roll, whatever. This is all really weird stuff. Just briefly, I was going to touch upon Copernicus developed a model of the universe that the sun, that was the universe that placed the sun. It was the sun-centric rather than Earth-centric, and the church was like, no, the Earth is the center, and so forth. And now we're going into the flat Earth and the lack of trust. I mean, it's just basically fascinating, and I love the idea of looking into things that question things. And of course, people say, well, the ultimate is you've been lied to. The Earth is freaking flat, and that's a lot to swallow. Well, we can prove it, and so forth. And hey, if you're into that, and people maybe get, I'm a flat earther or whatever, but I'll leave a link in it. The Coriolis of force or Coriolis effect has the diagram in there where it's just easily proves that what they are saying is the Earth is more of an orb shaped. I think Dr. Michio Kaku, the famous scientist, Dr. Kaku, he does sort of say, well, the Earth isn't quite as round an orb as they say. It's kind of a little bit oblong, and different changes have come on, and And there's some absolutely wild stuff. Zacharias Sitchin, who was on Art Bell, Coast to Coast. God bless the guy. We'll miss Art. And there's some amazing things. He translated ancient languages, and they revealed that the Sumerians knew that we were the seventh from the sun. And there's Velikovsky, who makes some interesting points about different biblical things matching actual real science, and he was ridiculed for it. So I'm not completely on one side or the other, but I do question what's behind this obsession with what seems to be at times extremely negative and violent Book of Revelation, the late great Planet Earth, Hal Lindsey, It's Coming, and then different preachers. I have things in there where I did YouTube of the dates that a preacher would pick time and again, maybe 100 of them that I have on here, where that says the end of the world's coming, the date comes and goes. The liberals and left mock, and they just come up with another one, and it comes again and again and again. And maybe that's not such a healthy thing to be focused on. Maybe more of compassion and logic, logos, philosophy, history, but again, a compassionate kind of theology and religion that gives everybody a shot at redemption, at peace. Let me know what you think. If this is interesting, or you're completely insulted one way or the other, or is this my point obvious or whatnot. I do think the earth is not flat. Okay, I'm gonna leave links with stuff I'm talking about in here, but give me a shout. Tell me what you think. Have a good one.